Welcome to the RevOps Loop podcast with Maarten and Stjepan, brought to you by Digital Reach and the nonprofit Tech Shop. Get ready to learn about revenue operations, HubSpot, and beer.
All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 19 of the RevOps Loop podcast. We got a special one today. As you can see, we are on the road. This is the first one that we're not recording from our respective apartments. We are at AAM in Philadelphia, but we have more on that in the next episode. For today's episode, we have a special guest. Once again, we have Dia. Here's Dia. She's coming into frame for the people looking at it.
Hi.
Today's theme, so what we're going to be talking about is a day in the life of an agency vet. Dia, I think it's safe to say you're an agency vet. So we're going to be talking through tips and tricks, war stories, do's and don'ts, things that you've run into.
Yeah.
And just shoot it from there.
I'm very excited. Thank you for having me.
There we go. So Dia, let's kick us off. And yeah, tell us a little bit more about yourself. We obviously work together now, but what have you been doing before? What's your background?
Yeah, very good question. So I have quite an eclectic mix of work experience. While I was at university, I started my own baking business. So I baked macarons, and all of that was operated out of my house. So I did like all of the food safety certifications and all that kind of stuff. It was great. I didn't carry on with that though. I moved into food photography and food writing. So I wrote for a magazine called Glow Time TV. And it was fantastic. I kind of built up a fairly large Instagram following. It became a real community. I'm all about community, so it was great to have like photographers around me, whether it was food photography, videography, or just general like lifestyle stuff. Then I got a little bit more serious because that kind of stuff didn't pay the bills and London was expensive. So I moved into, this is going to make you laugh, but the non-for-profit world. Obviously, there's a lot of money there. But no, I moved into the not-for-profit world as I worked for a program that essentially helped young people from different walks of life, socioeconomic backgrounds, kind of meet people who aren't like them. So other 16-year-olds. And we brought them from different parts of the UK. So a London kid would meet up with a kid from the countryside, and right. They would be in these big waves of like 16 young people. And the whole idea was that social integration is so important, especially when, you know, capital city being London is the melting pot of society when it comes to different cultures, religions, economic backgrounds. So the program was very rewarding. We ran, I did that for about 5 years, both in university and out of university. And then I randomly went into the recycling world.
So recycling world?
Yeah. So I worked for an envirotech company, and that was pretty cool. I didn't do that for very long. I kind of got a bit jaded by the whole everything needs to be green. Not that I disagree, but it just didn't feel like it was achievable at that point.
Right. Okay.
And then I moved into agency.
Sort of thing.
Kind of an uphill battle, yeah. And also I was moving cities, so I moved from London to Manchester, and it wasn't a remote job. It became remote when COVID hit, but yeah, I decided it wasn't the right path for me. So I actually moved into the agency world. So I had been an in-house marketer and strategist in previous roles. And then I decided to go agency side because I wanted a change of pace. For me, in-house got quite boring quite quickly.
Yep.
And once you know the campaigns and you know everything, what you're doing, you know, the year in, year out campaigns, things get kind of boring. And I needed a change of pace. So I moved to agency side, and that's kind of what brings me here today, I guess. So I spent 6 years, almost 7 years at my first agency. And then about 18 months ago, I came to Digital Reach.
There you go. Yeah. Okay. I mean, I think that's, well, I also came from in-house to agency. And I know that brings a lot more chaos with it, right? All of a sudden you're wearing a lot more hats. Stjepan, I think you as well. You came from more from the in-house world as well.
A lot of different things.
Yeah. So like, I guess maybe just to first start with that comparison, the main difference between in-house versus the agency, where all of a sudden you're going from, you know, one team, one priority, and all of a sudden you're managing multiple projects, multiple visions, right? That you have to manage. So yeah, what was that transition like? What are sort of the main takeaways there that you learned?
Yeah, so in-house is very fun. If you're a mission-driven person and you really care about an organization's goal and
Right.
the values of the organization and the mission that they aim to achieve or get to, it can be like really fun.
Yeah.
I really wanted to work in the brand and content world. I really love that kind of like output from a team. I love visual things, but working in-house, there's a department for it. Or there's like one person that does it. And I found unless you worked in a very large organization with, kind of enough budget, multiple teams to do multiple things, it's quite hard to be the person that does it if there's multiple people that do it. So for me, in-house was quite slow. And I don't know if other people experience this as well, but in-house you have a single focus, right? You might have multiple priorities, but you have a single focus, single mission, single vision. Sometimes you can skew and change and kind of mold and shift, but a lot of the time you don't really get to set that vision. Not that early on in my career anyway. But the organization that I was working for was a non-profit that had a very excellent mission. So for me, it was fun working in-house for an organization like that because everything else around it kind of pushed the needle.
I think also with in-house, it's sort of so like you said, obviously I guess you have the risk of a bit of tunnel vision, right? Where after a while, you don't get a lot of outside inputs. Everyone can kind of be on the, caught into their little, tunnel vision syndrome. And that's what I do like about the agency side of things, where it's because you're sort of forced to work with different stakeholders all the time. You're kind of automatically going to bring input from one project to another, right?
Exactly.
Insight from one to another. So I do like that. I think the other, I guess maybe the downside of it, and there's always a balance for everything, is that on the agency side, you're dealing multiple projects. You're not always setting the vision yourself, which can sometimes be a little limiting, right? Where you have a project, you have a certain way you'd want to approach it, but you're in the service side, right? So you're essentially needing to follow what is a vision that is set. So I guess it depends a little bit on what you prefer to do. Do you want to be more involved in the vision setting, or like, hey, what's the actual marketing strategy, the RevOps strategy that we want to run here? While then managing that balance of, okay, I also don't want to have a whole team that's just caught up in one way of working. You need to get some outside perspective there. But so all in all, you're happy on the agency side of things. You prefer that way of work.
How did that transformation look for you? Like jumping from, okay, I have slower pace, I have a priority, I have a goal, to now being in an agency life that's like sometimes chaotic, sometimes very fast. There's a lot of things happening, and usually it's like it's always changing. So like how did you tackle that transformation? Like any trips to share? Like what was like maybe first couple of months look like? How did you plan your day? Because it was very different than just focusing on one thing internally.
No, for sure. So that's a really good question. The easiest part of the transition for me was I went from in-house marketing to agency marketing. So I was doing a lot of the in-house marketing for the agency, but then also doing a lot of I had all of the marketing clients at my first agency. Not all of them, but, predominantly worked on pretty much all of them. So that was quite a nice transition because you're going from doing something very similar, but the pace changes, right? So it went from having kind of one focus, one vision to this client focuses on, leads generated and MQLs generated. This one, all they care about is what their Instagram looks like. And so it was quite nice. It was nice to have those like shifting like visions for different organizations, but ultimately I'm doing like the same work.
Okay. And you mentioned you had a very great experience with Instagram.
Yes.
So, like you had a following, what you're doing. So it's not that you were like learning something new, stepping into the agency life. It's more of like how to prioritize and how to like be aware of the pace. But that is what you wanted, yeah?
Yeah, and I also, I guess one of the big pulls for me to go agency side as well was like, if you're like a self-starter and you have a business or you're trying to trying to like have a side project or side income, you have to be so determined and like you have to be able to motivate yourself. And I found that with even just growing my Instagram, like it was at a time in 2013 to 2015 when Instagram was it was the platform that people were using. It was it was how communities were being built. It was how photographers were getting discovered, and I managed to do a lot of work with Instagram, which was quite nice, because at that point in time you didn't have these like creators and influencers and that kind of stuff. It was just people organically doing stuff and Instagram noticing that. So it was really nice. Before it became exactly. Before it went from a photo platform to a real platform and that kind of thing. So I guess like the pace didn't really change for me much because I had these little side projects that I was doing in and amongst writing a dissertation at uni or having my first job at the nonprofit and running these things on the side because it was my creative outlet at the time. So it was really nice to kind of change pace, but really the pace change was the amount of clients that you had versus the single client.
And I guess speaking of that, so going back to the whole day in the life of an agency, that you're in agency world now, multiple projects, some more fun, some less fun than others. High level, what are some of the what were the projects that you enjoyed working on the most versus what were some that were the least?
Yeah, really good question. I loved working on marketing clients.
And when you say marketing, I guess what does that mean to you? Is that
more
creative or is that more the?
It was like, how do I describe it? So say we had I'll give you an example. We had a client, they're dissolved now, they're called Inkpact. And they were like a note writing company. So they would deliver like direct mail, but the people would handwrite all of the notes. So like if you have a big organization and you're going on a retreat or something and you want someone to take something personal away from the retreat, this company would like handwrite the notes. And for them, like we did a huge rebrand, partnered with them to do their rebrand and a separate consultant. So kind of like using that vision to try and push the brand message forward, I think was really fun. But that was the kind of marketing clients that I worked on. It was all very visual, like content brand and copywriting focused. Heavy, brand heavy. So it's pretty cool. But then aside from that, like the first agency I joined was a HubSpot agency. And so it was, I remember my interview, someone saying to me, hey, do you have HubSpot experience? And I was like, I don't even know what HubSpot is. Because I was a Salesforce person, only ever used Salesforce, would go and do trainings with Salesforce to learn more about it, but never actually used HubSpot. And the learning curve wasn't huge, but it was the gateway into like more project work, more like implementation work, more custom work and technical work than, just marketing.
What I'm hearing is like you jump to HubSpot, but that's like one of the traits probably because you said like if you're a self-starter, you're not afraid to jump into a new tool, a new platform, something that's evolving. So I really think that helps.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think when you're that young as well, like that was, in my 20s, your brain is more likely to be like, I want to learn everything about really quickly. And I want to be able to show people that I've learned this thing. And I want to have all of the certs and I want to absorb all of the information. Because when you get to a certain age, you become like in that point in your career where you're like, oh, I'm like now just okay with being where I'm at. And I don't need to learn all the new things or learn the new tech or...
And you're less hands-on, right? That's the thing as well. When you make that transition younger in your career, you're still, you're the one setting up the ads, setting up a HubSpot profile, setting up a sequence. And so just getting your hands on it. I would imagine in the agency world, at least that's the advice that I was given, and I kind of agree with it, is that early in your career, join an agency just for even if you're getting out of that world, if it's just for the learning experience, because you're never going to have that many situations that you're going to be working on hands-on, where you're going from a brand project where you're putting a visual design together to then all of a sudden you're migrating a website to then you're setting up sales and marketing sequences and doing all of that with, getting that hands-on experience. I feel like it really helps you later on in your career as well to have more of that, which I think you have right now, this kind of helicopter agency role, right? Where you can jump on any project really and not need to get hands-on to fully understand what's going on, but be able to delegate it effectively from the outside.
Yeah.
Right? So,
And I think for me, like, you were talking about the in-house transition to the agency transition, like how hard was it? I find the hands-on transition to the helicopter transition really difficult because I love being hands-on.
Yeah.
And like, Martin, you know this, when we're working, I'm like, hey, can I jump into anything? Do you want me to help with reporting? Like, where can I like learn a new skill because the tools are ever changing and that kind of thing. So, like throw me into the deep end just for a day or two and then like I'll get back to doing my actual job. But
that's such a good one because I feel like that's one, and I think we all kind of struggle with that sometimes as well, right?
Yeah.
Is making that transition, right? And I think it, depending on the project, we all have to do this from time to time.
Yeah.
Fighting the temptation, if you want to call it that, from just getting in there and doing everything yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Any tips? How do you tackle that? How do you, at one point something comes in, you says, "Oh, this is interesting. I'd love to discover this, but I'd be better off in my role, right, to help someone else explore this on their own, right?"
Yeah.
And making that decision. It's
a really good question. It's a very tricky one. I know that you also find this difficult. Hey.
Yeah.
I think that I am very comfortable, and like I don't know if this takes time or experience, or maybe I don't know if it's growth, what it is, but I am very comfortable sitting in a room and not being the person to know everything.
Yeah.
I'm very comfortable if my team can be like, hey, actually, I think we should do it this way. And I completely trust and respect their opinion because I know that they are doing it more than me.
Yeah.
And I have to respect that they know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
I think it becomes really hard if you work with people that you don't necessarily trust the output or you don't trust that they're going to get it done. It's really hard to be like, this is a learning opportunity for you.
Yeah.
So I think as uncomfortable as it is and the discomfort it brings, I'm very happy to be like, hey, run with this thing. Tell me how you get on. Let's then take a step back and, see where you got to. Where did you get stuck? Where did you need to reach out to me? Where did you need to like start Googling things or use AI to search for things?
Yeah.
And I think it was really interesting.
Yeah.
Like career-wise, transitioning from I do everything to I delegate because it's very hard to let go.
Yeah.
But I know if I want my career trajectory to go in a certain way, I can't do and grow at the same time in the way that you do when you're in your 20s because you want to impress people and you want to leave an impression and that kind of stuff, but you also want to deliver really good work.
For sure. Yeah.
So,
and I guess the flip side of that as well. So and I don't know if that's something you struggle with as well, but the flip side of that would be, all right, I am fully in my helicopter role. I have a team that I can trust. They're the experts. They're building it.
Mm-hmm.
The risk of over time losing touch with, the most up-to-date, innovative, work that is out there and not being, not being caught up on what actually, modern marketing projects look like, right?
Yeah.
Is that something that you've seen like a trap that you've seen others fall into? I feel like that's a very real, it's a bit of a tough balance, right? Because you don't want to be the hands-on person all the time.
Yeah.
You don't want to be that out of touch, project lead where people, come to Dia like, no, ignore Dia. She doesn't really get what's going on anymore, right?
Yeah.
She's stuck in 10 years ago, right? That's one that I don't think I've struggled with personally, but it's one of those that I'm conscious about. I don't want to be that guy.
No, exactly. I don't think I struggle with this one because I am very curious as a person.
So you keep up. Exactly.
I like to keep up. I think the thing that I struggle with at the moment is AI. Okay. And I say that in the sense that like there's so much to know. There's so many new terms. There's so many new ways to do things. Yeah. And we were having a really good conversation yesterday about this of like, is it even helping? Yeah. Like if you think about the daily output of what we are doing, is it helping? And so if there was anything that I would say that like I would love to be so clued up in this area, it would be AI, because everything else I'm like, I can ingest this information, I can take it in, kind of figure out how I would use it and then go from there. But because the world of AI that we live in at the moment is changing so much, and every day there's something new. There's like a new model, there's new this, new that. I don't even know what the difference between the models are sometimes because there's so many of them. Sure. But I've also seen, old bosses, business owners, agency owners be very comfortable with not knowing the thing anymore. Yeah. And like every now and then they'll be like, hey, let's try this thing. Yeah. And then completely remove themselves from it because they also know I can't be in the day-to-day all the time.
Yeah.
But then I find with roles like that, the way they use these new tools or they find out information or share information is they use it in their personal lives.
Yeah.
So like, you know, they will have built this extravagant thing, maybe using AI, and like it's not a work thing.
Yeah.
But that's how they keep up with the tool because it helps them at home. And so
and
exactly.
and basically what you did to keep up with AI or start using AI is like you build a internal tool that we use for our rocks meeting, L10 meeting, and then I think like that's how you tackled it.
Yeah.
You wanted to have a, like you mentioned, you worked on a visual marketing stuff, and I think like you started working on AI and you wanted to have an output, not just like a prompt stuff, but like real visual thing that people can see that you tackled and do. But like there's so many models and everything, but like what the agency vet will say, like how to prioritize, like not just a model, but maybe a tool. Is it like a tool that you just like concentrate on, like it's a GPT or Claude or Lovable, whatever? How do you tackle that? So people like the folks hearing us is like, oh, there's so many, I need to learn all of them, or like I just need to concentrate on the ones that having the best benefit for me, for my team. How do you do that?
So
like how do you be hands off but at the same time hands on a tool, or do you even need to be bothered with that or not?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think now because my role is more operational, I need to understand and figure out as a team, as an agency, as an organization, like what is going to help us not hit like random blocks to stop us from being able to do things efficiently or to stop us from being able to optimize like very old processes to move the needle. The first thing that I saw, I was like, okay, because at my old agency, we used an L10 platform. And I was like, oh, we're using a spreadsheet. So it kind of feels like, okay, we've taken a little step back. That's okay. You know, but, you know, it's not the worst thing to not spend all that time on software that you don't need. So like a spreadsheet works. Then I looked into Base 44 and I was like, wait a minute. We can pay a low price and not the premium price. Build a tool that agency-wide I think we need because otherwise things are messy. You know, start of the quarter, has someone made a copy of the sheet? Have you put your rocks into it? All of this kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, this is a really small, very like not needed thing, but it's going to improve people's experience of these L10s.
Yep.
Because as an agency, we follow the AOS model, right? And if the L10 is being blocked by a piece of tool, like a piece of software that we haven't bought, like we need to fix that. Yep. So Base 44, that was my kind of like first route into AI, but like software and app, how to create something, how to teach it to do things, that kind of thing. So it was trial and error, but it fixed a pain point that was very specific. Yep. And like people didn't talk about the pain point. I could just see it in the meetings.
Yep.
So
staying alert.
Yeah,
all those things.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then, okay. And so I guess going back to kind of the general agency vet, right? So we talked a bit more about, you know, how do you stay hands-on? How do you balance hands-on versus delegating? How do you not get out of touch, right? You have your little side projects, jump in from time to time. Mm-hmm. Kind of zooming out a bit. So you've worked on a ton of projects. You mentioned some of them, more social, more brand, etc. Any war stories that come to mind? So like the top ones, good or bad, really? Like just the more memorable ones, either ones that you say, all right, I learned a ton from that. I know we have a internal slogan we use of broke it, fixed it, won't do it again. Yeah. That's usually a good motto for these kind of things.
Yeah.
What, if any, kind of stand out to you of like, all right, that was one project that either, you know, changed my perspective completely or still gives me trauma to this day?
Yeah.
Anything that comes to mind there?
You know, there's a few, right? I've been working in the agency world now going on, I'd say 8 years. So since 2018.
Okay. Yeah.
And I won't name the client because they're still an active client, but the project, very simple. We are implementing HubSpot for them, all hubs, and we're doing a live HubSpot to, oh my God, what was the tool called?
And for context, in this case, what was your role in this project at that point?
So I was a project lead.
Project lead. Okay.
So like, I was the consultant, the engineer, and I led the client interaction. So that's how the roles worked at my old agency. And we were integrating with NetSuite. That's it.
Okay.
And the NetSuite operation was very very customly coded. They built out all of these objects themselves that the out of the box integration just didn't do well.
Okay.
And like, this is going to make you laugh, but the integration, that was easy.
Okay.
I didn't personally do the integration. There was a lot of like dev work to do that. The thing that like made this a war story is this client. We also did all of their like website migration. We brought all of their forms from WordPress into HubSpot. We pushed all of that stuff out. We had to like stylize everything, all of that kind of stuff. So like, fairly big project for an implementation. Anyway, it was considered at the time EMEA's largest HubSpot implementation.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
So it was like, for me, it was like we had a lot of eyes on it.
Largest in terms of how would you measure the largest?
Monetary.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So the thing that really, like, this is actually going to make you laugh. You're going to be like, what the hell? They are a property company, so they sell land, they sell farmland, they sell agricultural land, but they also sell like houses, rent out spaces, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
The thing that threw this off completely was at the start of the project, we had all agreed that because they're going to be using Sales Hub and all of the tools within Sales Hub, that they would also have email tracking.
Email tracking.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So connect your email up, connect your calendar. Every time you ping an email out, if the contact doesn't exist, it creates a contact. It tracks all the emails, but you can toggle it on and off. Or as at an organization level in HubSpot, you can set your defaults, and it either does track it by default, and you don't have to click, or it doesn't track it by default, and you have to do it every time.
Right.
With the Chrome add-on. Yeah, the sales extension. So we had a call from our customer success manager for this client, and they were like, the whole project's going to go to nothing right now because as an organization, they don't want to track emails.
They do not want to track emails. And what was the reasoning behind that?
Because they work with a lot of like famous people.
Privacy
issues.
Okay.
But on HubSpot's roadmap, they had like a whole bunch of stuff to do with email tracking. Now, the thing is, we agreed at the start of the project that email tracking was always going to be on.
Oh.
And they agreed as well as a client. But when we started training them and doing the enablement training, going to their offices and showing them how things work and how their day-to-day will look like, they could not get past the fact that email tracking would have the body of the email. They just wanted subject line, time it was sent. And in theory, that works, right?
If you define it clearly from the beginning, I guess
Yes.
you can set that up. But
Yeah.
That's just a wild assumption to make.
Assumption, very much so. And we had been quite open with them that, this is what you get if you track an email, and this is what you get if you log an email. There is no in between at all.
Okay.
There's no,
Yeah.
let's track some and log some. There is no, you can see what someone sent, but you can't see the body of it. It's either one or the other.
Right.
And this was quite a large organization. I think they had maybe 500 people.
Yeah.
And it threw the project completely. So like we were like 98% done, enablement training done. And then this email tracking stuff came up.
Yeah.
And then it was months and months of back and forth, us, them, HubSpot, all over the place.
Pointing fingers.
Not pointing fingers, just like, is this going to be on the roadmap? I thought this was going to be on the roadmap. We're a premium customer, so we should get this on the roadmap. We should get first port of call.
So where did that go wrong? Was that essentially in the beginning, like expectation setting? Or would you say this is something where, okay, on the client side, what were they thinking? Like, did they just skim over that?
I
seems like a pretty big deal, especially if it's the biggest migration at the time in the...
I think the downfall for this particular engagement, not that the whole project didn't go down the
pan. Did it end well? Is there a happy ending, or was it?
I mean, it ended amicably, and they got what they wanted. Not necessarily on the roadmap side, but they managed to get what they wanted. But I I would say that, and you'll find this in agency, if the stakeholder engagement isn't there, and the people that you need in the meetings are always deferring and, I can't make it, I'll watch the recording. There's such a small amount of information that they could miss that they don't agree with. That throws a project.
For sure.
Because you get to the end with this assumption, hey, everyone's good with it. They watched the recordings. They did all the things. Then you get to the end and you're like, we've not been on the same page for a very long time and we just didn't know.
For sure. And I think that's where you as an agency or whatever your role is in a project within an agency have to try and pick that up proactively in the beginning, right? Because it's easy to just continue to push forward. Hey, we're not really getting a lot of pushback from this client. Everything's going very smoothly. But if your antennas are up, like, do they really understand what's going forward? It's sometimes best to just hit pause. Right? Say, okay, we're going to be the ones who cause a bit of a delay. Just because, guys, we're noticing that there's a bit of a misalignment. Did you read over the email part here? There's something that you missed. I think that's also sometimes a tough decision to make, especially from the agency side, right? You want to stick to timelines, right? You want to make sure the project roadmap stays on track. But then flagging that early on and saying, okay, wait, even though you're nodding along, something here is off. Let's all take a quick pause. Easier said than done.
Definitely.
I feel like projects, clients especially, are not always open to that, right? They just kind of want to chug along,
keep going. But
then you end up in these situations where how long did that essentially take to get finalized?
Oh man,
months.
It must have taken at least 8 months.
Over deadline or?
Over deadline, yeah.
Months over deadline. So
and everything else went live when it was supposed to, but it did go over deadline.
So to this day, what have you learned from that one?
So, the biggest thing is don't make an assumption on such simplistic things, right? Because it was such a simple thing. It's a default setting. It's either on or it's off, and this is what it does. But my biggest learning is to always question, not necessarily just with HubSpot or anything, but always question what you're being told about a feature.
Sure.
Because there was a very big assumption on that feature that, even when we tested it, I was like, well, yeah, of course the assumption's right, because I've put the scenario in, I've tested it, and it works. But, there are so many edge cases. And so, don't make assumptions on simplistic things.
Don't make assumptions. Get into the details.
Get into the details all the time. Right?
Even if things look smooth, get your antennas up to see, like, hey, is everyone actually on the same page here? Because it can cause issues down the road. And, don't be fooled by high stakes projects. Like, don't be. Well, that's a good one too.
Don't be, what's the word? Don't be overrun by the stress of that project. Ultimately, you need to work with a straight head to get it done and all that kind of stuff. And don't think about the size and scale of it. Rather you should
treat everything
with the same kind of level of detail, maturity. The reason you're on the project is because you have the experience to do it. So no one would have put you on there if you didn't have the experience, and you've demonstrated that you have that experience. So that was one of the war stories. I do have another one which I think you might like. Very, very simple marketing implementation.
Love it.
And website rebrand.
That's usually where it goes wrong.
And actually this was at training stage.
Okay.
Same kind of line of lack of key stakeholder engagement, and we just had junior stakeholder engagement the entire project, making decisions, running those decisions past their seniors, everything seemingly being okay.
But you're relying on, you're not in touch with senior stakeholders.
We are. You are. But everything's good with that, quick email back and forth, good with that, all that kind of stuff. We get to training, and this was before Content Hub and Marketing Hub was split, so it was just Marketing Hub. And we get to training, we're going through, HubSpot's infrastructure, where the different objects live, fall into marketing, this is where emails are, this is what your reporting looks like. And at this point, I don't have the client screen on my screen. I'm taking them through the demo. So I have the HubSpot screen up. And I also have Slack up on my other screen, but I can't see their faces.
Okay.
And then someone pauses and interrupts. And it's the key stakeholder. She's joined the call. She's got her hands in her hair, tugging at her hair, completely anxious, doesn't understand, physically tugging at her hair.
That is next level.
Crazy. Honestly, Charlie, if you're listening to this is a client that you also know. absolutely like cannot fathom that they are now using HubSpot, even though she paid
They
for
were
it.
using HubSpot.
Yeah.
That
they were
up
using
until
HubSpot
that
to this point. Yeah. No, she knew that they were doing it because she made the decision.
Okay.
But she had at that point realized she was not in the know of everything enough.
Yikes.
So I'm training them, and she's like, I don't know how to do any of this stuff. She's got her head in her hands. And I'm sat here like, this is your 1 hour training session and the only hour that you've paid for.
Oh.
We could do more, but I don't know if, by the looks of it, I don't know if you want that.
Yeah.
And then they kind of went on their way.
Jesus. So, well, is that a similar learning where it's again about
stakeholder engagement?
Because it kind of sounds like same thing there. Stakeholders are not fully engaged throughout. Even everything looks fine. People nod along. You chug along at a project, but there's some clear gaps of understanding there.
It can be your biggest. They can be your biggest cheerleaders and also your biggest spanners.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So they can really throw a spanner in, and you're like, what do I do now?
So lessons learned from an agency vet. It sounds like stakeholder management.
Oh yeah.
And everyone knows this, right? But it's good to hear it in practice of like, hey, these are like some actual issues that you bump into, right? A key stakeholder in a 1 hour training with the hands in her hair saying, what the hell is this? Like, that's not great.
Yeah. And big one is don't be a yes person.
Don't be a yes person. Exactly. I think that's a big one as well.
Slippery slope.
I think especially in any kind of service industry, right? Where you're essentially trying to provide service, it's tempting to just go along, say yes to everything. Yes, we can do it.
Mm-hmm.
Don't make a fuss if they're not making a fuss, right? Kind of keep yourself a little bit in the background, so to speak.
Yeah.
But it's actually, in the long run, probably more productive if you're the one who hits pause, if you're the one who gets everyone on the same page, right? Even if they're not necessarily asking for it. Yeah. I think there's some good takeaways. Stjepan, anything else to add from your side before we go to what I know is your favorite segment?
Like a quick question. Do you ever feel like an imposter syndrome?
Absolutely. That is such a good question.
Explaining it because when I talk to different people, they're like, oh, I'm here, but I'm scared. Sometimes the imposter syndrome is there. Do you ever feel it? How do you tackle it?
That's a really good question. The transition from my old agency to here, I did take a big step. It was where I was aiming to get to, and I'd worked all of those years to be able to put myself in a position to be I can definitely do this job.
Yeah.
Imposter syndrome hits very early, and then it hits very late for me. So right at the start, I was like, have I bitten off more than I can chew? Why have they hired me? Mandy, if you're listening to this, I know why you hired me. And I know you think I'm good, but it's just I'm not making an immediate impact, and I need to be doing that. And I'm not, I've not come in and changed loads of things. And actually the learning for me there is when you're moving from an if you're being promoted in an organization, you don't have to do that immediate impact stuff. You tend to have always worked, in quite a gradual way to get you to that point, and it's a natural progression. When you're moving from agency to agency and you're moving, I guess, up 2 levels or maybe 1 level, you don't have to make an immediate impact. You have to come in and get a lay of the land and understand processes and see, not go in and be like, that's wrong. Why are you doing it that way?
Okay.
There's no point. So for me, I did get imposter syndrome when I first started. And then on days where I'm I'm not a very stressy person. I'm quite level-headed and patient, but when I'm having a stressful day, I'm just God, I feel like I bit off more than I could chew, or I can't do this. Why have you got me to lead this thing, or why am I in charge of this thing? And then I have to baby shake myself and look in the mirror a little bit and be like, I can do it. I'm being my own blocker. But sometimes it's a little voice that's hard to quiet.
So you're practically tackling that imposter syndrome by just having an inner voice. I am here because I worked worked to be here.
Yeah.
And this is just a obstacle that I will tackle as everything that I tackled before it.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the way that you approach the imposter syndrome, or is there some other tricks that you can share? Okay.
I would say definitely the quietening the inner voice and just talking to people.
Okay.
I think having a mentor is a good thing, because, or speaking to friends who are in similar points in life, in similar work positions, that kind of stuff. get someone else's perspective on the imposter syndrome that you're feeling, and not for them to come and say you can do this or you're going to be great at this, but more so
not empty.
like tell me what I should do here, or like, hey, I've experienced this as well and this is what I did. Trying to learn from other people.
And I want to emphasize something that you said is like, you don't need to make an immediate impact, because like I experienced when somebody came to the agency and just decided everything is wrong. And like probably in 3 months, everybody was shocked what the things that were changed, because they didn't talk to anybody working there for a couple of years. They didn't listen to the people, why they're doing it the way they're doing it, how they are approaching the problems. They just said, oh, this is too slow, this is too fast. We don't need this, we don't need that. So I think that I want to emphasize that as somebody that's managing people, processes, has experience as many years that you have, just like probably taking 2-3 months to understand the whole system, the whole agency, how it operates. Does it like to be like a lot of clients at once, like what's the flow and everything, and then do little things that you said, like and just like it's flowing. So it's not overflowing, it's not underflowing, just like it's flowing, and because it's moving, it will get where you need it to get as a vision, as a leader.
Absolutely. And I think going back to your point about immediate impact, the biggest thing about that is I don't want to start somewhere and change shit. Sorry. I want to go in and build a relationship with the people that I'm going to be working with and gain and give respect. Because the moment you come in and you're like, this is wrong, I'm changing it, you're doing that wrong, why are you doing it that way? You've lost their respect. They now don't trust any decisions that you're going to make moving forward, because if you come in and absolutely like stamped on their work that they've worked for 2 years on, and they've also now decided that you aren't the right person for the role because you have come in really heavy-handed like a bull in a china shop. And actually gaining respect when you start somewhere new is super important, because you have to build relationships, you have to understand people. And I really enjoy doing that side of my job. Like, you know, with you guys, I love getting to know you as people before we do a job. So, yeah, imposter syndrome, going somewhere new, you have to know the people that you're working with.
So I think...
I was going to say, no, and I think that's a good way to look at it, right? Priority first is understanding people, getting those connections, being comfortable with not making an immediate impact, and say like, no, I'm going to take, like you said, a month or two, take it all in and make like calculated decisions, fighting the urge to prove yourself, especially if you're tackling, if you're dealing with imposter syndrome in the meantime, we're like, no, I need to prove myself, etc. I think that is, just emotionally can take quite a bit of a toll, right? Like it's a whole journey to go through, but it's definitely an interesting one.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Dia, thank you for that. We do have our closing segment as always. So Stjepan and I, we always rate our beers. We have quite a list at this point. I think we're up to 30 beers at this point, which we all need to put into a ranking at one point. Anyway, when we do have guests on the podcast, instead of us ranking beers, we ask them to rank their beverage of choice. Could be a beer. I don't know. Are you a beer person, a wine person? What would be your go-to recommendation beverage of choice? Alcohol preferred, but not mandatory.
Not necessary.
Not necessary.
And just one?
Oh, you can go off. What's your number one? We'll start with that.
Let's do top 5.
Oh, top 5. Okay. Wow. That's okay.
You're the first person to ask just one. So like we don't want to put any limitations there. Just go off.
Okay. Top number one drink would be a mezcal Negroni.
I like that. I definitely like that.
Number 2 would be an OG Negroni.
Oh,
like,
okay, there's a theme here.
There's a theme here. Number 3 is a Negroni Spagliato. No, I'm joking. But number 3 would probably be a spicy margarita.
Spicy margarita, okay.
There's a theme of cocktails here.
Oh, no, okay.
Number 4 would be probably an amaretto sour.
Oh, there is a theme, eh? Yeah. All right.
And number 5 would be an extremely dirty martini.
Damn. Okay. Extremely dirty martini.
Yeah, more like olive brine than alcohol.
Oh wow. Okay. No,
Yeah.
that is a unique list. I don't think we've gotten a list of cocktails on that so far. So we can actually start our cocktail ranking. Maybe we should switch actually. We've done all the beers almost. I feel like at this point.
Yeah.
I love that. Okay, no, Dia, thank you so much.
Of
That's so
course.
interesting to hear. Just the general background that you've had, lessons you've learned. I love that last section as well, just sort of on the imposter syndrome, how to tackle all that. So yeah, love that.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks again for joining us.
Of course.
We're gonna close the loop on this one. This was episode 19. This was episode 19. So we'll see you all. The next one, episode 20, will be a special one. As mentioned, we're at AAM, so we're gonna have a bit of an AAM special recap coming soon as well. But yeah, for this week, that's it. See you all in the next one, guys. Bye-bye.